I'm Wendy from Shiny Happy World, and in this video I'm going to show you how to assemble this rat block. I decided to do a rat because we just had Chinese New Year and it is now the year of the rat. So just a quick note on where you get the pattern. This is the currently exclusive to the Funny Faces Quilt Block of the Month Club. That is available over at Shiny Happy World, and when I say currently, it is right now February 15th, 2020. So that block will be available in the clubhouse until March 15th, 2020. If you're seeing this video after March 15th, you can find the pattern for this guy in the shop at Shiny Happy World, and there will be a new pattern available in the Funny Faces Club. So here's how to make this guy. Okay, the first thing you're going to do is trace or print your pattern onto fusible adhesive, and you're going to trace or print it onto the paper side of the fusible adhesive. So the bumpy adhesive side is on the bottom, and I get a lot of requests. People want to know which one I use. I use Heat and Bond Lightweight. That's the purple label, and I really like the printable sheets because I'm lazy and I really hate to trace. So you can print the pattern directly onto the sheets, which is awesome. So get it onto your sheet, and then the next thing you're going to do is fuse it to the wrong side of your fabric. And here you can see that with the pink version that I'm making of this rat. So you're going to fuse it, and you're going to rough cut the pieces out and then fuse it. And what that means is you're going to leave the rough cut means leave a little bit of extra all the way around your pieces, and leave a little extra wherever there's a dotted line, and you'll see why in a second. So fuse it to the wrong side of your fabric. For this pattern, we've got a head, a neck, larger kind of dome shapes for the outer ears and smaller ones for the inner ears. And you'll want to make sure that the inner ears use a lighter fabric than the outer ears. And then you've just got, I like to use solid black fabric for the eyes and the nose. After you get them fused down into place, you're going to do a clean cut and attach them to your block. So let's pull the block in here, get that centered, and I want to make sure that I get it in here so that you can see the bottom edge, because we're going to start building from that bottom cut edge up. So now I'm going to do it in some realistic rat colors. I'm making a gray rat here. So we're going to start with the neck piece because that is what lines up with that bottom edge. We're going to peel the backing off, and then you're going to line that up so that the raw edge at the bottom of the neck is lined up with the raw edge at the bottom of the block. And I have not centered this guy because I know that the head has a kind of a long nose coming in. So before you peel off the backing for the face piece, make sure that you trace, let me get this zoomed in really close here. Make sure that you trace the markings for the eyes and the mouth while you still have that paper attached. So if you hold this up to a window, you can actually see the dots for the eyes and the line for the mouth, and you can trace those onto the correct side of the fabric. And again, I get a lot of questions. I just use a Sharpie fine point marker, nothing fancy. I have never had it bleed, so I don't worry about that. And I trace just inside the eyes. You can see that the eyes on the pattern are quite a bit larger than the eyes that I've traced here. That's just a guideline for me to know where to put the eyes. But I do draw right on the mouth line because I'm going to stitch right over that. And that's why I use a black pen, so that if my stitching line, which is going to be black thread, doesn't exactly cover it, it's okay. So you get the eye cut out, leave a little bit extra here where the nose is going to go. And then we're going to peel off the backing, the paper backing, and position that in place. And you're going to have it overlap the top of the neck. That's why, if you remember, on the neck pattern, there was a dotted line at the top and at the bottom. This bottom bit is what's going to be covered in your seam allowance when you sew all the blocks together, and this top edge is what's going to be covered by the head. All right, next up we're going to start getting the ears in place. So we're going to start with the bigger ears. Peel off the backing and just tuck one in place. Again, that dotted line shows that it's going to tuck a little bit behind the head. Smaller pieces always tuck behind larger pieces. And rats don't have as big ears as mice have, and they tend to have more oblong ears. So if this was a mouse, he would have kind of big round ears. So now we're going to do the inner ear pieces, which is a lighter color gray. And those are going to go right on top of the outer ears. And again, just get tucked behind that headpiece. And we're going to do the second inner ear here. Tuck that behind. And now we're going to do some eyes and the nose. So I gave this guy, rats don't really have great big noses, but I thought it made him cuter. So I gave him a nice big nose. You could make it go this way if you want. You can kind of play around with that a little bit. As long as you're covering up the tip of the nose, you can play around with that positioning and see if it changes the personality of the face. And now we're going to get these itty bitty eyes in place. And if you don't like positioning or sewing around such small eye pieces, I have a whole video at Shiny Happy World. I'll link to it below this video here, that shows you a bunch of different options for eyes. I've tested different kinds of fabric paints and show you which ones work well, and fabric markers. You can embroider them. You can use a different kind of adhesive that doesn't need to be sewn around. The post has a whole bunch of different options. So there you go. Everything is positioned in place. I am happy with its position. So the next thing I'm going to do is take it over to the ironing board and I'm going to fuse it in place. And you want to follow the instructions for whichever brand adhesive you're using. Some of them say to use steam, some of them say not, some of them say different temperature settings. So make sure you follow the instructions on the brand that you're using. And when I come back, I'm going to show you how I stitched around it. So I'm going to fuse him down and then do all the outline stitching. When I come back, I'll talk you through the path I took for that outline stitching. And here we are with the finished block. I've done all of the outlining on it. Actually, I'm going to lower this a little bit so you can see him a little bit closer. Let's just get that lower down. All right, so when I did the outlining on this guy, I actually managed to do all of the outlining, and I only had to stop and start once for the whole head and then once again for each of the eyes. So let me talk you through how I did it. So for all of these, I just went around everything 3 times with just a simple straight stitch in black thread. So I started just inside the neck here, outlining the headpiece. And I went around once, just zipped across the nose here, all the way around the head one time. The first time I just kind of like to establish the shape. The second time is when I like to do all the appendages. So on the second pass around, I ran around once. And this time I went around the outside edge of the nose one time. I only do the nose and eyes once because it's black on black and you can't see the extra stitching anyway. Then I continued the second path around here until I got to the far end of the ear, and then I went around once, twice, 3 times, and then I continued along the head until I got to the back half of the inner ear and went around once, twice, 3 times. So that got that ear taken care of. Carry around here for my second path, go all the way across to this side of the ear, and then I went once, twice, 3 times. Continue around the head until I get to the far side of this ear, and then went once, twice, 3 times, and then continue around the head for the second time. And then I stopped at the mouth and I went back and forth 4 times on the mouth. 1, 2, 3, 4. That got me right back on my path, back to where I started. Now I've got just one more to go around, and this one is just easy. So I go around, across the nose, around the head. Continue past my starting mark just a little bit until I get down this neck here, and I go down once, twice, 3 times. Carry along the edge. This is going to be hidden in my seam allowance. And then up this back side of the neck, once, twice, 3 times. And then I just went around each eye 1 time. And I want to flip this over and just show you, if you have trouble with the eyes, in addition to that post that I mentioned where I link a bunch of different alternatives for the eyes, I'm also going to link to a post that gives you some tips for going around tighter turns. They'll help with the eyes, and also these inner ears were a little bit tight. So that post is going to be helpful. Mostly it's just about shortening your stitch length and slowing down your speed. But you can totally do small shapes. Like I said, you can see going around these little eyes and the ears. You can see that line much more clearly on the back side. So now let me show you some other color options. Okay, here is the pink on pink on pink version. This is the last of the pink on pink on pink blocks that I'm going to do, because now I have 12 and that is enough to make a small crib-sized quilt. So I'm going to be making that, and I'll have it finished in time for Valentine's Day. But this is the rat in all pinks. And one more. I just did a really fun green rat just because I really like these fabrics. So for this I used the dots collection for the main part of the head and the ears, and then for those paler inner ears, that is one of the green prints in the Gingham Play collection. I've got fat quarter bundles of that in the shop as well. So 3 different colors for 3 playful and fun and happy rats, and that is the pattern for February 2020. I'll see you next month with a new pattern for the Funny Faces Club.